What up, what up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this podcast, we love to talk about crowdfunding. We get into the real deal when it comes to how to raise money successfully from the crowd. So that could mean for a physical product. That could mean for something more of like a tabletop game. That could mean something more creative in nature, doing something like a book that you're publishing, a film project, a short story, anything like that. We talk about how to raise money using crowdfunding. And also, we've been talking more and more as well about how to raise money for startup companies, actually using equity crowdfunding to actually get a bunch of micro investors in your company, and you use crowdfunding in order to do that. Today's episode, we're actually getting into Kickstarter and specifically how this individual was able to raise $800,000 with a Kickstarter campaign. And not only that, but they've been able to actually bring a few different products to market and really created almost like a scientific process when it comes into creating and producing products, turning ideas into reality. And as well, they're also doing an equity crowdfunding campaign at the time that we were recording this particular podcast show. So I'm telling you guys, this is going to happen more and more and more. And literally every stage of my career, right? Whether it was in 2012 when I was talking about how Kickstarter is blowing up, whether it was after that talking about other things like, charity and personal crowdfunding, how GoFundMe is really just taken over. Other kinds of platforms like real estate crowdfunding, talking more recently about equity crowdfunding, even talking about nonprofit fundraising, nonprofit crowdfunding, how that landscape is changing. I'm telling you guys, the sands are shifting once again. And a major trend that I'm seeing is that more and more people who are doing Kickstarter campaigns are also then doing what's called an equity crowdfunding raise. And today is a great example of that. This person being able to attract more than 6,500 backers on Kickstarter. Today, they're going to share with you some of the secrets that they learned. In particular, one trick that they used in order to go from having their ads, their marketing that wasn't working at all, to then instantly starting to work for them and starting to bring in people actually backing this project. So we're going to be talking about that, some of the things that go into really smashing through your goal when it comes to doing a Kickstarter campaign. How do you really rocket past that? How do you make sure that when you do go live, you're going to have tons of people that are checking this out and continue to promote this and really be the start of a whole new brand? The person coming on this episode as well, they've had tremendous momentum as a result of doing this Kickstarter campaign. They've had tons of people checking them out online, even to the point where they have a massive backlog of potential orders of people who want them to produce even more of this product. So I think this is a great example of how Kickstarter not only validates an idea, gets you funding to produce the product, creates momentum, builds a brand overnight. And I think the most important thing as well is it really kind of like almost is like a media firestorm where tons of people are checking you out. Tons of people are excited about your products. So we're talking about that and more in today's episode. If you want to learn more about how to do one of these Kickstarter campaigns, I got a great book out there called the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is really kind of like the paint by numbers blueprint, the step-by-step formula, as is in the name, right? Kickstarter Launch Formula, that goes into launching a campaign, getting traction, getting traffic, how to get backers. Stuff I talk about in that book is literally shared nowhere else. These are really, in my opinion, the weapons that you can use to really attack this problem, to really make sure that you go out there with confidence. You don't really want to go out there empty-handed when it comes to having no tricks up your sleeve, having no ways to actually promote this. So if you really want to launch well, if you want to make sure you go past your goal and really have a good experience with Kickstarter, you got to check out the Kickstarter Launch Formula. There's a version available on Amazon, and I'll also give you a link right now taking you to Audible at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio will take you there. And also, if you sign up for a free 30-day trial of Audible, you can also get a copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode. Let's get straight to it, and let's discover how this entrepreneur, how this inventor, how this creator was able to raise over $800,000 on Kickstarter from more than 6,500 backers, rocketed him to fame, and then also take that and do some really cool stuff as well. Let's get into it right now. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have a man from the Crowdfunding Hall of Fame who's done a couple of different campaigns, and he's made his way now onto Republic, which is actually an equity crowdfunding site. So we're going to go into a little bit of his story, understand his choices as it relates to that, and also some of the cool campaigns he's been working on. Ellie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely, man. You have quite the history here when it comes to crowdfunding. Maybe you can just kind of start providing just a bite-sized intro so the listeners kind of have a bit of context of your background and the company that you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it all starts with me with a crowdfunding campaign. Back in 2013, my brother had an idea for a guitar pedal, a product that musicians use. And, we started tinkering with it. We had some prototypes and we wanted to go to market. So back then we launched an Indiegogo campaign. We broke some records for any music accessory. So we were the most funded musical product on Indiegogo at the time. And that was the start of my first company, which was Singular Sound. It all started from that successful crowdfunding campaign, which enabled us to go to market. And then we started coming out with other products. And, we had our built-in customer base. And so we came out with 8 products over the years, some of which we did pre-order campaigns for, moving over from Indiegogo to our own e-commerce site. We wanted to try, something we had a little bit more control over. And then after, working with Singular Sound, coming up with all these products, about 5 years ago, I had an idea for a device that can floss all your teeth automatically in just 10 seconds and do it better than you can. And this consumed my brain. I couldn't sleep for a month. I, called my friend who was this doctor of engineering, and we started just prototyping. We got really mad into it. And eventually we actually had something that worked. We started working with Dr. Ana Mascarenhas, who's the chair of the American Dental Association Council of Scientific Affairs. And when we had something that we were confident worked, I knew it was time to go back to the origin of it all, which was a crowdfunding campaign. And we launched on Kickstarter, then we moved to Indiegogo, and then we moved to our website. In total, we've done $2.5 million in pre-orders.
Wow.
And we're about to come out with the product, Instafloss, at the end of the year. And there's been so much interest in the product that we're actually doing yet another crowdfunding campaign, this time for equity on Republic. And that has been, that's the first time I've done an equity crowdfunding campaign. And that has been really interesting as well.
Super cool, man. So, this Kickstarter looks like you did over 800K, won 6,500 backers. Congratulations on that. Do you view yourself as a inventor, as a designer, an entrepreneur? How do you really view yourself?
It really depends on what time of the day it is. So sometimes, I definitely view myself as an inventor. I have a journal. I keep coming up with, ideas, but it's more about what you follow through than what you actually come up with, because ideas by themselves just sit in a journal and don't help anyone and don't do anything. So I've been working on Instafloss for 5 years. So, the vast majority of my time, the fact that, you invented Instafloss becomes pretty irrelevant 5 years on. And that's not what you're doing. You're not inventing and reinventing it day in and day out 5 years. And so that becomes a lot more of an entrepreneur. That becomes a lot more of, the marketing hat, the fundraising hat. I think, really at this point, the thing that I really think I focus on is trying to have the right team, the people who know way more than me in every single domain that we're going to be touching on, whether that's, dental science, whether that's engineering, whether that's marketing, and coordinating them all so we can have the most effective way to bring this to market and to bring Instafloss to people.
And when it comes to that, for you, having gone through this process a couple of times, what is the part that you find most rewarding? Is it when you're actually raising, you're launching this campaign, you're just getting tons of backers here, thousands of people checking this out? Is it when you're shipping it out and you're getting people using this? Like, what part of the process is the most rewarding to you?
Every single stage has its own reward and then its own follow up with dread of, okay, now we have to go to the next stage. So, for example, in the very beginning, it's like everything's riding on whether or not we get the patent. And 100% of my brain is working with the IP lawyer of, can we be patented? Can we patent it from this angle, from that angle? And then we go to the patent examiner and like everything's like this hold breath moment when we receive the letter and the response from the patent office. And then we're patent granted. And that is just so rewarding because, 100% of your focus has been about the patent. Then it's like, okay, now we have to make it. And now you have all this dread of can we make it for this price? And then, you go through that whole process. And then it's so rewarding to be able to have a manufacturing contract in front of you that you've worked so hard for. And then you have the dread of, oh, okay, now we have this manufacturing contract. Can we get the money to do it? And then you go on a crowdfunding. And every step, I would say it's this roller coaster of up. And then, this exhilarating, we've accomplished this step. And then you look and be like, oh, yeah, that's just one little step of 1,000. And each one of those are both terrifying. And if we do our job right, exhilarating in the end.
For you, how long are you spending in that, from when you actually had the idea to when you were gearing up to launch the Kickstarter campaign? How much time do you feel like you spent there? Was that a year? Was that 2 years? Was that, how long was that?
So it was, so the idea was 5 years ago. I would say it was a gradual increase of how much time it took for the first 2 years, because for the first 2 years, I was still operating Singular Sound, but Instafloss is taking up more and more of my brain because we were prototyping it, we were doing science on it, we were testing the efficacy of it. And when we finally had a granted product with prototypes that work, that we've conducted science on, and that we saw, was curing people's gingivitis, etc. And we knew that this not only worked and was comfortable and could do it in 10 seconds, but that Instafloss was more effective than anything else that we tested it against on the market. Then I was like, okay, I have to do this 100% full time. And so about 3 years ago, that's when I made the switch, when I resigned from my position at Singular Sound, which was very hard to do because, it was my baby. We came out with 8 products. I had really devoted myself to that. But I just knew that everybody has teeth. Everybody knows they should floss. Nobody wants to, but they would if it was easy. So I just had to pursue Instafloss full time.
So a lot of people throw around that word revolutionary, right? When it comes to Instafloss, why do you feel like this is really a leap forward when it comes to functionality or comes to the way that it can prevent gingivitis, like you said?
So 70% of people in the United States regularly skip flossing. And this is even larger outside of the United States. We just happen to have good data in the United States. And they give 3 reasons. And the top complaint they have is that it takes too long. The second complaint is that it's painful. And the third complaint is that it's hard to do correctly. And they're absolutely right. Even people who floss tend to do it wrong and tend not to get the results that you should if you were flossing correctly. So there is no product on the market that addresses every single one of these points. So, for example, there's Waterpik, which you may or may not have heard of. It's a water flosser. It's a tank of water. A motor pumps a water jet, and you have to manually trace your gum line to floss. This is more effective than string floss, and it's not painful because water jets are far more comfortable. You could adjust the pressure. So it solves that number 2 complaint that flossing is painful. Mm-hmm. But it takes even longer than string. So you make one thing better, but you make another thing worse. They were bought by Church & Dwight for $1 billion in 2017.
Insane.
And they didn't even have any relevant patents because they came out with their product in the 60s. They only had 25% of the market because they had no patents, and there's so many knockoffs. And they made the number 1 complaint worse. And they still were able to be sold despite all of that for $1 billion.
Yeah.
Instafloss is the first product on the market that solves all 3 complaints. And if you solve all 3 complaints about flossing, people, I believe, will have no more excuse to skip.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think there's obviously also a lot of cool ergonomics, right, when it comes to the way that your product looks. So you've been spending a long time on this, spending multiple years thinking about it, prototyping, getting the patent, all that kind of stuff. What did it feel like the night before you went live with your actual Kickstarter campaign?
Well, so there is an element of, is this going to succeed? Is this going to work? This big, the moment of truth, as we call it. There's lots of little moments of truth. There is no one moment of truth in your business. There's the moment of truth for your prototype. There's the moment of truth for your science. There's the moment of truth for your patent. There's the moment of truth when you start doing ads to see if there's any interest even before your campaign to build up like an email list. And then there's the moment of truth when you launch. There's the moment of truth when you conclude. There's the moment of truth when you manufacture. There's the moment of truth when you deliver. There's the moment of truth when you scale. And hopefully there's a moment of truth when you eventually exit. So lots of moments of truth. And in that moment of truth, when you're standing over the cliff about to take the jump, we had some good data that made me feel, I'm not going to say 100% confident, but have a very good feeling about how our campaign was going to go, because we had been collecting emails months in advance of the campaign, because you don't want to just go blind. Mm-hmm. You want to launch with the biggest bang possible. And based on our email open rate and based on our signups and based on a lot of other metrics we had a fairly good feeling that we would do fairly well. And we did. We did, I think, over 350,000 in the first day, just in the few hours of launching. So, that was a confirmation of our approach, of our calculations, of what we thought was going to be the case. But at the same time, you never, ever know. You can only have an indication. Mm-hmm. And so before we actually saw the confirmation that people were interested and that they were willing to put their money where their mouth was, mm-hmm. It was, I'll admit, very, very scary, as it always is before a big truth is revealed.
So as you're getting more and more funding and more backers and more people are noticing you, what does that kind of look like on your team aspect? Like, are you guys jumping up and down? Are you kind of just trying to play it safe and, not think about it too much? Are you talking with your friends about this? Like, what was that happening behind the scenes? What was that like?
Well, with every moment that your popularity scales or interest in your product scales, that comes with benefits, but it also comes with potential pitfalls and responsibility. So, for example, something that we are elated about is that there's a 41,000 person wait list for our product. These are the people who haven't yet purchased, but they signed up saying, I will purchase when you are actually in stock. Because the vast majority of people don't want to give you, a full price years in advance. And I fully understand that. And I really am appreciative to the people who are willing to do it. You guys are amazing. You have enabled us to come this far. Because of you, we've paid for our patents. Because of you, we've paid for the molds, and we've set up all the machines in our manufacturer. But the majority of people are not willing to put money in advance. They're just like, when the product's on the market, let me know, I'll buy it. So as our list has grown, this has been an incredible asset for us. But at the same time, it's posed a challenge. Because one of the things you want to do when you have marketing is you want to build on momentum. And you want to do PR, you want to start doing influencer marketing, you want that to simultaneously happen with an actual marketing push, because all of these things are, and sorry to use the word, but it's true, synergistic.
It's a good word. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's all working together for sure. And, you're trying to balance a lot of different scales at the same time. And you're almost like, trying to plate spin, to a degree, because you have all these orders and you're also producing, and you have people that are waiting for it. So I assume it can be, quite scary, but also exciting.
Right. So to bring on the scary part of that is, yes, 41,000 people waiting for your product is amazing. But if you don't have the inventory to support that, suddenly this hampers your ability to have all those simultaneous marketing fronts to build on momentum. Because most people, if they see PR and they click on your website and they want to buy it, if it's not available, they'll forget about it by the time you're back in inventory. Mm-hmm. So just to speak to what you were saying of, are you excited or are you nervous? Well, it's both. As our list grows, so too does our need to be able to foresee and project the inventory demand and be able to meet that. Because the bigger the list, the more we have to meet inventory, which means the more capital we have to raise earlier. Yeah. So everything that's exciting comes with challenges that you have to anticipate.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Before we get into talking about your current raise, do you have any advice for people that see your success on Kickstarter and like, this guy is absolutely crushing it, right? I know you behind the scenes, obviously, you have to think about inventory and that kind of stuff, but I mean, you raised $800K, like that's awesome, and you had thousands of people. Do you have any tips or advice for people that are looking to do the same thing as sort of a takeaway, or what really worked well for you?
Yes, absolutely. So I imagine there's a lot of advice I could give that you are probably already aware of, listener, that you've probably Googled and you've probably already seen. So I'll try to skip all of that because, yes, everything that you Google and that they tell you is probably true, and you should listen to all those things on Google. But I'll tell you a couple things that maybe don't make it into the Google results. So all the tips online will tell you you've got to build up an email list, and because the first day is important, momentum is important, and seeing on how many people convert from your, let's say you're doing ads to gather emails, you can sort of calculate what your ads will look like in the future. If 10% of people who saw your ad sign up versus 0.10% of people signed up tells you a very different story. But one thing I didn't see anywhere that we just sort of figured out on our own is that Google is very diligent about putting stuff in the promotions tab. And we didn't want to end up there because if we had 50,000 emails, but they were all in the promotions tab, they're worthless. So what we did is every time someone signed up, we had a very non-corporate, very personal, plain text email asking them a few pointed questions. And the goal is to get them to respond. Because if people respond to your email, then you're not flagged as a promotion. And we had a very simple rule, which was anytime someone responds, you've got to respond back. And you have to let them be the one to not respond. And via this, we were able to engage many potential people, many people on our list. We were able to get them really engaged, which, number one, is really good for Google's algorithm. They're like, oh, wow, people are responding one-on-one with this email. Therefore, this isn't a spam email. This isn't a promotion email. Yeah. Corporate email, yeah. But number two, through that process, you get people who otherwise wouldn't have been engaged become super engaged. And then we looked at any excuse we could to get people engaged. When we had multiple designs of the product, we would send it to people. When we were thinking about what the default colors were, we would send it to people. When we had different logo options, we really let people take ownership in a way, or have a say, have a voice. And that voice empowers them to have a larger voice in order to get other people interested in your product.
Love it. Love it. And I think just as people also feel that kind of ownership, it's almost like they're witnessing your story evolve, and they want to participate in that. Like they want to share it when you go live much more. And it feels way more cool, right? You're not just buying something, you're really supporting someone, and also, going to get something at the end of the day in the future. So I can totally see why, people seem to really resonate with that.
Absolutely. And I think it's in a large part because of the enthusiasm people have for Instafloss is why we got as far as we did.
Another one I saw you mention in pre-interview had to do with video ads or getting engagement with that. I was wondering if you could just expand on that point.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I'm not going to say that this is true for everyone, but it certainly was true for us. And I would conjecture that the more similar you are to us, the more likely this will be true for you. So we were doing a lot of A/B testing on video ads, and we were not getting very good results. People weren't watching our videos. They weren't clicking on our links. They weren't signing up. And there was one thing we did that suddenly made all the difference, and that was we got 3D renders that I call it animagic, animated magic, where you sort of see the water jets inside the teeth and you zoom in and you look below the gums and you're like, yes, here's a water jet knocking stuff out of the gums.
Mm.
And that process of that 3D animation was night and day for us. As soon as we started releasing the 3D animations, our ads went from useless to just scooping up emails
Crack
and
cocaine.
getting all the clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you have a product out there, maybe people don't know how. I mean, especially maybe with Instafloss, people are like, how does it floss all your teeth in 10 seconds? That doesn't work. That's nonsense. And then you show them, perhaps it's the believability. So maybe it was just something for us, and maybe it's not applicable to someone else's case if you have something that's easy to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for us, showing people in a 3D animation of just how it works suddenly made it understandable. And they're like, I get it. And I'm interested. Sign me up.
And it does look very unique, looking at just the way that it cleans your teeth and how it kind of fits between all the different little crevices. Like, it just looks cool as well. So I think it's also eye-catching for sure.
I hope so.
Awesome, man. So I mean, you've been absolutely killing here, right, when it comes to the campaign, and it sounds like you've decided to kind of use this whole new way of raising capital and continue to go with that when it comes to doing an equity crowdfunding campaign. So what was kind of the motivation behind this? Did you want to continue to grow your audience? Did you want to kind of scale and get to the next level? What's your kind of goal here with this? And you talk a little bit to this.
So first, there's the business case, which is that because we have a 41,000 waitlist for Instafloss, we need to have inventory to anticipate that in order not to run out of stock, in order to be able to build momentum. So we knew we needed to raise money. But we also knew that just given our history, we've always had the best response from the crowd, from people. People know that they need to floss. They don't like doing it, but they would if it was easy. It is such a simple message that really resonates with people, that we've always had great success when we talk to random people, when we mention it online, that going to the crowd seemed like the best way for us to raise money, and it's been going really well so far. I think we're already up to about 100K on Republic, and the message seems to be resonating with people, and that number is climbing.
So talk to me about this, because this is obviously very different than Kickstarter. So when you're doing a Kickstarter, people that are backing you end up actually kind of like pre-ordering the product almost. With this, is it true that they're getting like an ownership equity stake as well in the company?
Yes. So they're getting the investment vehicle is called a safe note, which means as soon as there is a liquidity event, their note converts to stock, which is a fancy way of saying that if we sell the company, then you get your pro rata percentage. And we are definitely aiming at an exit for the company. So I think this is something that's super enticing to people, because a lot of people are very interested in getting an Instafloss for themselves because they want an automatic floss. But a lot of people also are very interested because they know that a device that automates flossing is going to be big. It's going to be in every bathroom counter. So they want to be part of it. And if anything, our journey has shown us that people want to be part of it. They want to have a say of what the Instafloss looks like, what our logo looks like. Every step of the way, people have taken ownership and been very enthused about being part of Instafloss. And now they can be part of Instafloss's financial success as well.
Interesting. So it's kind of almost like they're becoming a part of your community, but they're also participating in the upside, right? Because if you raise 100K and you're selling out orders, they maybe get to own the product, but don't get actually a piece of the pie. They don't get to own the business, right? This is a way that they can actually participate in the upside, right, of your success.
Absolutely. All that advice they've been giving us from the start, it's now more than just something cool. It actually can influence their success as well.
So when it comes to this project, this is a very radically new way, I think, to really offer funds to the crowd. Why is it that you decided to do that? Because I think most people would just like cut out the middle, the smaller guy, right? The retail investor. They go straight to the VCs, right? Try to raise a bunch of money. Why was it that you really wanted to make this opportunity available to the little guy here?
Like I've said, every step of the way, Instafloss has been very open about what we've been trying to do. Our whole engineering process. We've had regular blogs. We post updates at least once a month, sometimes more when we have other things to talk about. We've been very open about our design process. We've been open every step of the way, and we've really encouraged everyone to talk about it and chime in their opinion. And this isn't just something we've done just for transparency, but it's been a two-way conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And people's ideas truly have influenced the design of Instafloss in many ways. So the people responding to our emails and responding to our blogs have influenced our choices. And so because we've always had a really great response from everybody on the internet, from the crowd, we wanted to open this up to the very same people because we have that audience. People have been following us for years, and it seemed like a no-brainer to us that they should be able to be part of our fundraising round.
And really, how big of a problem? I mean, you mentioned that other company, right? That was bought, I think you said, for around $1 billion. How really big is this market? Because I don't think we just really think too much about like flossing as being something that's, that's huge. How big is this market, do you feel?
So that depends on what you mean by this market. There is how much are people currently spending on floss, and then the question is how much would people spend if it was automatic and easy. So the current amount of money people are spending on not flossing, but just water flossing devices, which, as I mentioned earlier, are devices that take even longer than string. They spend $1.2 billion every year on these devices. So if all we did was take over that market, there already is a large opportunity. Mm. But I think the opportunity that we see is actually far larger than this, because most people don't use water flossing devices. And in fact, most people don't even regularly floss. 70% of Americans regularly skip flossing. So Instafloss is not only enticing to the people who are spending the $1.2 billion a year on water flossers, but it's also enticing to the people who are spending $6 billion a year on any flossing device. Mm-hmm. And it's enticing to the 70% of people who are just not flossing currently, but they would if it was automatic and easy. And then further, we also have subscriptions that we will offer that currently are not reflected in the market numbers. A lot of companies these days have shown us that that consumers are very interested in subscriptions as an easy way to, add the convenience of not needing to remember when to replace, for example, their toothbrush head or their mouthwash subscription. And we offer a replacement mouthpiece on subscription, which currently 90% of people who have pre-ordered on our website have subscribed. And we will offer a concentrated mouthwash, because the most expensive thing about mouthwash is the water. That's why it's expensive to ship.
Yeah.
But
awesome, man.
We are going to offer it in concentrate, so you can put it in your Instafloss and mouthwash at the same time. And these two subscriptions can 10x our expected lifetime customer value. So not only is there the $1.2 billion of water flossers, the $6 billion of flossers, the untold amount of money in the 70% of people who don't floss, but there's also 10 times that in the subscriptions as well. So I think we're looking at a very large potential, because simply put, everybody has teeth and everybody knows they should floss, but very few people do, but they would if it was easy. And that's where Instafloss comes in.
Well said. So how do people find or come across your campaign here on Republic? Where should they go?
So there's two ways you can go there. You can either go to instafloss.com, like an instant floss, instafloss.com, and we'll have a link to our campaign. You can also learn more about our product, or you can just go to republic.com/Instafloss if you can remember that URL. But either way, if you Google Instafloss and go to our website, you'll be able to see a link to the Instafloss Republic campaign.
Very cool. And, I think you've been just really, absolutely knocking these products out of the park. I mean, from what I understand, you've brought 8 products to market, commercially that are successful. You've grown a prior company to 20 million more, plus in revenue. So you're clearly doing something right. Maybe we could end today's episode with, you could either end with a final tip for entrepreneurs, a final word of encouragement, something that you wish you knew when you were getting started, something on the business side, and we can kind of end the episode with that note.
I think that a major key to success in this is that there are so many moving parts and so many things that you don't know. you can't be hung up about being right or being the smartest person or knowing everything. You don't. You have one good idea and you have the determination to see it through. And, you're the guy who will make that happen. And part of making that happen is meeting all the people who know way more than you and letting them shine brighter than you can. Our lead engineer, Dr. Ralph Roud, 10 trillion times smarter than me when it comes to, how Instafloss can work. Sure, I had the initial conception, but it would be nowhere without him. Our marketing, sure, I have some ideas of, we should gather these emails, we should do some things. But Anthony Sastre, who is our lead marketer, a billion times more of a genius, when it comes to these things. And in a way, I view them as the boss of their own expertise. Dr. Ana Mascarenhas, who's been advising us on the science, I would be a complete idiot to think that I can overrule her on anything when it comes to science. So when it comes to all these things, I know she's the boss of science. Anthony's the boss of marketing. Ralph is the boss of engineering. And that's what will make it succeed. You have to recognize where everybody can help bring a product to life and let them do it.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing some of your advice and tips. Good luck with your remaining days here when it comes to being live on Republic, and look forward to seeing your next expansion and the next stages here when it comes to Instafloss.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun talking to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Wherever you are hailing in the world, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time here with me today. This week, we produce episodes on a weekly basis, trying to share with you crowdfunding gold when it comes to how to actually smash through your goals when it comes to a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, how to get that funding you need and also that you deserve to produce really credible, great products into the world, and obviously get them into other people's hands so they can sample it, they can give you feedback, they can spread the word, they can talk about it worldwide. That is my mission for you at the end of the day, and really help you reach your potential, right, when it comes to being an inventor or an entrepreneur or a creator. So in addition to this show, one of the other things that I do and that I've been really trying to do since, like I said, in the early days in 2012 is provide education. And I do that obviously with my YouTube channel. I do that with my books, with my courses. I do that with my live programs. I do that as well when it comes to the podcast, right? I really try to put out high quality education and information. So the first thing you should do is go and check out some of the archives of this podcast. Go and dive into some of those other episodes that stand out to you and really be willing to, it's almost like if you're going to a buffet, you can put what you want to on your plate, right? And different people have different tastes. You might want to learn more about physical products. You might want to learn more about tabletops. You might want to learn more about artistic tarot cards, like all that kind of stuff. Go and check out some other episodes and also just discover what's working when it comes to raising money with a Kickstarter campaign. In addition, if you kind of want this more personalized for you, so not just going to like a buffet, right, and being able to sample a bunch of stuff, if you really want like a personal chef who's making exactly what it is that you want, taking your taste into account, keeping in mind the kind of cuisine that you like, that kind of is almost similar to what I call my one-on-one coaching calls. So these are individual intensive coaching calls, walking you through step-by-step everything you got to do to actually launch and to get the result that you want when it comes to doing a crowdfunding campaign. So a lot of my students are doing Kickstarter campaigns, Indiegogo campaigns. A lot of my students are launching physical products. I also have students when it comes to creative stuff in nature, as well as tabletops, etc. But really, with these individual intensive coaching calls, really trying to bring my A game to you, that incredible library I have of information of what works and what doesn't for different categories, for different types of promotions, different types of platforms, all that kind of stuff I bring to you in one individualized intensive coaching call. So if you want to explore that, you can check out this link I'm about to mention at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. crowdcrux.com/coaching will take you there. Literally one of the best investments that you can make, because like I always say, you don't know what you don't know. If you're going to go out there and you're trying to do something new, it always behooves you to really learn from experts, to have a trainer, to have people that are helping you every stage of the way, because you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes there are resources, there are tools, there are people you should know that could help you move forward towards your goals much faster and really put you on the fast track in your life. So that being said, that link, crowdcrux.com/coaching. In addition, one other quick thing I wanted to mention, just because we kind of have the topic of equity crowdfunding, I've also been working with many more students who've been doing equity crowdfunding campaigns. And this is something that I'm seeing that's not being reported in the mainstream news. It's not being really seen very much, in my opinion, online. And again, I'm kind of more of a pioneer, I'd say, in this industry, but I've been seeing people absolutely crush it when it comes to doing equity crowdfunding campaigns. In particular, if you are an existing business, if you have a following of some kind, if you've done a campaign before, I think this is a great synergy for you to be able to raise investment capital from your audience. In addition, if you are a newbie, if you just have an idea and trying to get to the next stage, as long as you're willing to think out the business plan, really get a clear sense of the value proposition, going after the target market, all those kinds of things you'd have to put together for an investor presentation. If that's also something that you want to explore, you can also book that with me at the one-on-one individual coaching call at crowdcrux.com/coaching. And we can talk about that. We can see whether or not that makes sense for you. So whoever it is that you are out there, wherever it is that you are, I'm telling you, man, there is a success story on this podcast for you. There's someone who's been in your area of the world, been in your age demo, maybe never even launched a campaign before or a product, and they've done that. And to me, that is the coolest thing in the world. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thank you so much for supporting me, for liking me, for leaving positive ratings and reviews on iTunes, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, giving me that thumbs up, right? That us YouTubers love. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and I will see you next time.